believe that if you really truly want to be a success, you can't live in a place like this. Because I was walking around your campus, and actually I lived here for a year after I left the Chicago Tribune, and newspapers are in effect in a death spiral now. I'm personally sad about this because I love newspapers, I love the newspaper industry. I had to leave it because it's dying. The irony is, I don't know how many of you are interested in that, but you all killed it personally with Twitter, as I was watching, and Facebook, and all this lunacy of social networking that, and the internet, of course, has effectively economically killed newspapers. But I don't remember what exactly that was. There was several points I was going to make, and I'll get around.
We'll get to them later.
Because I forget what I'm saying because I'm old, and so if anyone can remind me, you're welcome to. Now, that's the other thing too. I'm not paid for this. The professor asked me to come in. I apparently don't have much of a life, so I came. And so you have to do some work. In fact, you can ask me questions. I don't have a speech, I don't have a show for you.
Sorry, I've got some questions.
I have a lot of things to say. Well,
I guess that.
They need to ask some questions because I was getting to that point about myself.
I'll be outside.
My favorite topic. You can leave, we'll handle it.
Okay.
So when I was, again, I hate that sort of stuff, when I was your age kind of thing, I remember my family telling, oh yes, 10 miles to work, you're a lazy kid. But I had no idea at 20 or 19 or 21 or however, whatever age you want to be. All I knew is, at the time, I didn't want to work. I wanted to stay in school, but I really didn't have an idea of what I could do. And I thought, I was interested. I played sports as a kid, as everyone plays sports. And I have to be interested in newspapers, but and I grew up in New York City, delivering as a kid. There were 7 newspapers when I grew up in New York City, 7 daily newspapers. And I delivered in the morning. I'd get up before school. And I shouldn't tell you, that's like the Depression story my parents used to tell me. But anyway, I love newspapers, but I didn't think I was capable of working for one, given the fact that I usually got B's and F's in English. So this being the inspiration for you, that one of those books, that book, which was that one on the right, was a New York Times bestseller for 3 or 4 months. Not I think it got high as number 2 or number 3. And so this would be a high school English student who wasn't capable of getting into journalism class because my grades weren't high enough back then. You had to have a certain level of grades to get into high school. And when I went to college, basically I didn't have much desire, like I said, I lived not to work. And so I figured out the classes I was worst in was language and science. So I looked for a degree that you wouldn't have to take those courses. And that was accounting. And so I figured, well, one was as good as the next. So I took accounting and I was working through it. And I was playing baseball in college. And that was a time of tremendous activism. You might have read about it in the history books. Vietnam War and things like that. And so sports was kind of pushed off to the side. There wasn't a whole lot of interest. And so somebody from the school newspaper came in and said, well, we need someone to write about sports. Nobody cares about sports, because we had student protests on campus, and construction workers were beating up students, and it was interesting things going on. So they said, well, we'll pay somebody to do that. And so I did it and I tried it, and it turned out I could do it. But now I had this accounting degree and I needed a job. And so I went and worked a couple of years in accounting, and then said, well, I'm going to go, now I figured out at 25, this is what I want to do. And so that's how I ended up getting a journalism degree. I went to Ball State, which I never frankly had heard of, and they called me and said, well, you have an accounting degree. If you come to our school, journalism, you apply, we'll excuse the tuition. You don't have to pay anything if you do the books for the school newspapers. And I said, well, okay. I had no money. I was out of money. I was working in New York City. So anyway, my long point there, and it has nothing to do with your class, obviously, but again, it's about me, is, or the point is that you have time. But what I was saying about noticing while walking around here is I felt like by working in Chicago, I worked in Washington, D.C. At now, what time is it now? It's like 4 or 5 o'clock. It's pitch dark in the East and the Midwest. So we would be working like at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, where you guys are thinking, people in the South, in the West and the Southwest are thinking, yeah, maybe I'll go sit outside and have lunch, or I'll go hit some golf balls, or I'll walk around. It was always in Chicago. It's dark all year, all winter long. So I said, well, okay, well, I'll make 7 more calls to people. And so I personally believe that. Okay, a couple of quick, when a speaker comes there, we say they have a message, and so the message is like, study hard, kids. So something like that. But, so my one message was to, if you want to be a success, you want to have success. No sort of a joke about living in the Midwest or New York, but I do believe that. Don't get married. Is anyone married here? Good. Because if you want to, and again, don't tell your parents I said this, or like a pastor or something. But that said, especially if you're going to work in journalism, which is a very difficult thing because, as I've said, you people have ruined it. It's harder to get jobs. I won't break that for you. So you have to have a real passion for it. And the way to be, these are the tricks of success. There's just a couple of them. The main one is to find something to do that you have tremendous personal passion for. So in other words, you'll do it as opposed to doing leisure activities. Now I've been extremely fortunate in the jobs I've had, and maybe it's because of those. I would just assume, now my job is, I go to ball games. You say, well, that's a job. But, even this, not for many. Can you take that down already? Sure. I think they're tired of that. Yeah, put up something else. So I test, I know these things. But the point is, if you can find something, because work is hard and long over time. So the secret to it, a couple of secrets, is one is you find something, no matter what it is, that you have passion for, that you'd rather do that than go play golf or go to the beach or ride your bike. You find that thing, then you'll have a chance to be successful, and then you'll also have something that you can carry through your entire life.